Canada wants to make its economy less reliant on the US. We have these persistent productivity challenges and low innovation. Our guest has been thinking deeply about this problem. We're joined by Richard Gold, Director of the Centre for Intellectual Property Policy at McGill University. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a complex area. First off, one problem you identify is just a simple lack of investment in dollar terms in innovation and research.
That's right. So our government plays a bigger role in Canada than in other countries because the private sector hasn't been investing. And there are many different theories about why that is. Too much regulation. Some people say it's culture. But the bottom line is they're not investing enough. And then the Canadian government itself is not investing as much in university research, the provinces as well. So our universities are underfunded. And yet they're still producing a lot of knowledge. But that knowledge is not translating into innovations that stay in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are amazing. Canada invests, about $11 billion federally and provincially in research, less than 2% of GDP. But the Americans invest federally 3.5% of GDP. So we're just nowhere in terms of dollar volume.
Right. And a lot of that in the U.S. is through things like defense.
Yeah.
So with our new policies, maybe we'll start investing more in research in order to find dual-use technologies that are both useful for defense, but also for other products and services.
Right. We'll be investing in more ways, researching more ways to kill people. But anyway, let's not go down that road. But you're also concerned that the money we do spend, we don't get a decent return on. Just talk about that briefly, if you would.
That's right. So because we have so little investment, there's really no ecosystem or a strong enough ecosystem to support those firms that are innovative. And so what happens is we get these great ideas out of our universities. We get some small firms that develop it, but there's nowhere for them to grow in Canada. They don't have access to capital. They don't have other suppliers and collaborators within Canada. So they end up selling their intellectual property, usually to firms in the United States. They develop it and then send it back. So for AI, for example, there was one study that showed well over 50% of Canadian developed AI patents actually get transferred outside the country.
Talk to us about patents and what we can do. I know this is a complex area, but what's the number one thing we need to do to get more intellectual property for Canada?
So to do that, we actually have to fund research. We have to get firms to invest in working with universities to take out that knowledge, transform it into intellectual property that stay in Canada. So we need our big Canadian firms, our banks, our mining companies, our oil and gas sector, health sector, et cetera, to invest in research and to the point where they can develop new products and services and then sell them to the world. So we need more Canadian firms based in Canada to acquire the knowledge and then turn them into patents and other intellectual property.
You may have seen the government has this list of favorite projects that it says are nation builders. I looked at it and I thought, copper mines? Ports, is that really the future of Canada? I would have liked to have seen much more investment in research and technology.
I agree with you, but even these sectors could benefit greatly from innovation. If you go into a mine, it looks much like it was 100 years ago. Imagine if those big mining companies or any of these companies started investing in cheaper ways to do things, using new materials, using AI to find new sources of oil and gas or of minerals, develop better materials for the pipelines. Then we have innovation. But just building a pipeline across the country using existing technology, sure, it creates jobs in the short term, but doesn't sustain us.
Now, there's a thing called patent pools. What the heck are they, and how could that improve the situation?
So a patent pool is basically a big fund that purchases patents that are critical to Canadian firms. We're not going to be good at everything. We never have been. Think about the Canada arm on the space shuttle. or the space station. We were good at that. We were not good at the rest. So this fund would purchase patents and make them available to Canadian firms so that the Canadian firms aren't sued by Americans or Europeans. They develop the technology, they develop their own innovative products, and they sell that to the world. So it's really a way to allow Canadian firms to access key knowledge in those areas. You can't do everything, though, and these funds have a limit on them.
Applying for government support is notoriously bureaucratic and painful. And I've also heard it said that you're dealing with one official and next minute they've moved on and you got to kind of start from zero with another. So bureaucracy is a problem?
Bureaucracy is always a problem, but not having the government invest in innovation when we have such a poor ecosystem is a mistake. Relying on the market to fix our problems hasn't worked. The United States doesn't do it. They invest massively, as we talked about, in defense, but many other industries. So the government has to be a partner, but they can be bureaucratic. So my recommendation is, and I'm not the only one, set up an independent but government-funded entity that would manage this and hopefully decrease bureaucracy in doing so.
We have a banking industry that looks very like an oligopoly, according to the Deputy Governor of the Bank of Canada, or she's expressed concerns over lack of competition. Do we have complacent banks that are not backing research and innovation?
Well, I think we have large firms that are complacent. They're just not investing enough. They don't feel the pressure to actually invest in research and innovation. And that's across all sectors. It's in our cell phones, it's in banking, it's in all of these really critical sectors where we have large firms. So competition is clearly something that would assist everywhere, because then these large firms need to look to new ways to compete. And often that is through innovation.
Richard, thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you for having me.
Richard Gold, Director of the Centre for Intellectual Property Policy at McGill University.